This is the best-selling digital camera on Amazon and also one of the cheapest around. It's got 44 megapixels, films 1080 Full HD video, has a 16 times digital zoom and is available in 4 groovy colours: black, green, pink and this rather refreshing purple. However, the most exciting thing about this camera is the price. It costs just $38 all pounds. I bought one with my own money, so you don't need to. And in this video, we're going to find out what it can and can't do. At a time when most of the big camera brands are charging $500 to $1,000 or pounds for one of their entry-level models, surely something that costs $38 or pounds is going to be a load of rubbish, right? Well, maybe it's a bit more nuanced than that. So I'm going to take this around Brighton on a winter's day to find out what it can and can't do. And crucially, whether this is the perfect Christmas present or something that you're probably going to leave at home. You'll notice I haven't mentioned a brand or even a model number yet, and that's because it doesn't have one. Maybe the price isn't expensive enough for that. It's just got 44 megapixels written on the front and in tiny lettering DC403 is the model number written underneath. But when you're shopping for this on Amazon or on other platforms, you'll see it sold by companies like Camcorey. I've seen multiple other brand names for it as well, but you will recognize it by its style and the list of headline specifications, most notably the 44 megapixels and the 1080 video. It's a low-cost point-and-shoot camera aimed at kids who maybe aren't ready for a phone yet, or anyone who just wants the simplicity and affordability of a really basic DIGICAM. This is a category the big brands abandoned years ago, blaming phones for killing it and raising entry-level camera prices beyond the reach of many. And yet there's clearly an appetite and demand for affordable point-and-shoot compacts, driven by simplicity and nostalgia, as well as a low price. Many of us turn to the countless vintage digital cameras that were released in the early 2000s to satisfy that simple feature set and low price. And while both of those facts are true, the trouble is, the reality is that they can be marred by issues with old batteries, easy charging, and even getting the pictures out of the camera in the first place. Seizing the gap in the market for a new budget Digicam are a number of Chinese companies flooding Amazon and other platforms with similar looking models like this one. The camera itself is tiny and really lightweight. It's roughly the same footprint as a credit card and only about 2 centimeters thick, but it's the weight that really shocks you. Just 114 grams. I mean, you barely notice it when you pick it up. But of course, that does mean that the build quality is pretty basic. It feels kind of hollow and very plasticky, but it is what it is. You'll also notice there's not a lot to hold on to. There's no textured grip on the front, nor anything to push your thumb up against on the back. Indeed, I found it quite easy to push some of these buttons on the back by mistake, but then my fingers, even though they're only medium size for an adult, are probably a bit bigger than the target market for this camera. It also comes with a pouch to carry it around and a wrist strap to hold it securely. Framing and composition is with a 2.4-inch screen only. There's no viewfinder on this camera, and you can't change the brightness of the screen either. But on an overcast day like today, I found it very easy to view. I had no problems with that, although on a sunny day you may find it a little trickier. To the right of the screen are 2 buttons which operate the digital zoom. Now it offers a 16 times zoom range. It actually says 16 times powerful zoom on the front. But remember, this is digital, not optical. So as you zoom in, the quality is going to deteriorate. The zoom also works in the video mode though, but again with that reduction in quality. You can see it in action here. As I push the button, you can see the image gradually tightening in little steps. You can hold your finger down on the button, but you will see it jumping from step to step to step. And again, that quality is going to reduce when you've got it at the maximum settings. Remember, it is just cropping the image and enlarging it. Below the zoom controls are a joypad. Push up and it'll activate the LED light on the front of the camera. This just stays on constantly, so it's going to act as a bit of a preview when you're taking your pictures, or of course it can act as a constant video light. Push this button to the right and you'll toggle in and out of the burst mode. Although note, when you are firing burst, the resolution will reduce to 5 megapixels. Push left and you can choose the self-timer options, 2, 5 or 10 seconds. Push down and you can delete whatever picture is showing. Below this and to the left is the main mode button. Push it once and you'll enter the video recording mode. Push it again and you're in playback. Push it once more and you're back to taking still photos. And finally, to the lower right is the menu button. Push this and you can go through the various shooting options. Below the camera is a combined battery and memory card compartment. The battery is pretty small and it does start flashing low power before long. And just above that you'll see the micro SD memory card slot. Depending on where you buy it, you may need to supply your own card, but they're not that expensive. I've got a 32GB card in there and it will give me about 4,000 to 5,000 best quality pictures. Also notice a metal tripod thread, which is pretty handy for mounting it on a stand. On the side of the camera is the only port. It's USB-C and it's used for charging and also data transfer. Now, if you compare this to a vintage digital camera, it is so much more convenient to charge that battery inside the camera. Those older models, you would need to remove the battery, put it in a proprietary charger that was designed for it and plug it into the mains. This being USB-C means that you can charge it either at home or with a power bank, and you may need to do that occasionally to top it up while you're out and about, because again, that battery does not last very long. And then when you're ready to get the images off the camera, you can either remove the micro SD card and put it into some sort of card reader, or you can use the camera as a card reader and just connect the USB directly to your computer, your tablet, or your phone. Okay, let's check out the quality and bonus points right now for any camera that greets you with a jolly tune. Push the menu button in the photo mode and you can choose between 10 different quality settings, from the top 44 megapixels to the lowest 5, with the default setting being 24. Now, on their Amazon page, you'll see some great looking photos in the marketing description, so I'd say it's not unreasonable to wonder if you could expect something similar in practice. To compare them, I took the same photo from a tripod at all the different quality settings. You're looking at their best quality 44 megapixel setting here, and if you take a closer look, you'll see the quality quickly fall apart. Fine details have become mushy and ill-defined. There's visible splotches and aggressive sharpening with some weird looking high contrast too. This looks nothing like the marketing. But now let's put the best quality 44 megapixel version at the top and compare it with the worst quality 5 megapixel version at the bottom. See any difference? Now look really carefully. I'd say there's perhaps fractional differences in how the sharpening and contrasts boost these two different files, but in terms of actual resolved fine detail, essentially identical. From this test, I'd say the sensor may actually be a lot lower resolution than quoted, or at least conclude that there's little point in wasting memory on the best quality 44 megapixel setting, as you're unlikely to see much, if any, difference. Now let's return to their marketing again, where they optimistically show the 16 times zoom delivering equally sharp images of the face. I'm suspecting that we may not achieve this in practice. So back to my test shot, first taken with no zoom, and now with the digital zoom roughly halfway at about 8 times, and finally with the digital zoom at its maximum 16 times setting. All were taken with the camera's best quality 44 megapixel setting. Now let's place them side by side and magnify the normal and 8 times images to match the size of the 16 times version. So from left to right you have no zoom, 8 times zoom in the middle, and 16 times zoom on the right, and as expected they look identical. Like most digital zooms, there's no extra detail, just a crop and an enlargement of the original image, so the same amount of mush here. Moving on to the lens, the coverage roughly matches what you'd get with a 35mm effective focal length, so that makes it a useful general purpose. There's no autofocus to measure as the focus is fixed. The manual quotes an optimal distance of 3.3 feet, or about 1 metre, although in my tests more distant landscape subjects were sharply focused, so they're within the depth of field. But point it at anything closer than 1 metre and you're likely to get a soft image. You can see it here in some of my test shots, making it less useful for close details or small subjects. This also makes it tricky to get a perfectly focused selfie, unless you've got arms that are 1 metre long, and ironically the limited range of the LED flashlight means it may not even be effective at the correct focusing distance. The camera also has an anti-shake mode that I left enabled, but it didn't really help much in dimmer conditions, and the camera's so light that it's easy to wobble it. It'll also film 1080p video with sound, and you're watching an example of it right now. And you can zoom the lens while you're filming, although the steps are a little bit jerky. Let's have a look at some more clips. The files claim that they are at 30p, but the jerkiness in motion makes it look more like a lower frame rate to me, maybe 15 or 20p. Put it this way, they're not looking very smooth to me here, and again suffering from a lack of image stabilization. The camera also offers lower resolution 720p and 480p modes, so let's do another comparison. So here's the so-called best quality 1080p mode, and the motion of the sea looks jerky to me. So now let's swap it for the 720p version, which looks a lot smoother. I'd say definitely 30p. And finally the 480 mode, which is the squarer standard definition shape, again looking way smoother than the 1080 footage. So given the detail is essentially the same on the 1080 and 720 modes, I reckon I'd go for 720 for the smoother frame rate, unless you actually like that jerky effect. Finally, the camera offers a selection of effects that can be applied to photos or video. As you cycle through them in the menus though, you won't see their actual effect until you push OK to confirm. So for your viewing pleasure, here's a normal shot, followed by black and white, sepia, red, green, blue, sunset, warm, cool, overexposure, IR, binary, vivid, undertone, dog eye, eyebow, gothic, Japanese style, Lomo, and negative. Do you have a favourite? Okay, as I wrap up, I'm going to show you more photos and videos, all taken in the so-called best quality 44 megapixel and 1080p modes. Note the exposure was automatic throughout, and while you can apply compensation to make photos or videos deliberately brighter or darker, I never felt the need. Correct exposures are actually within the capabilities of this camera. But from my tests, I think it's fair to say that this isn't a camera for you if you care much about image quality. Look even slightly closely and you'll see the quality fall apart. There's suspiciously low detail in the better quality modes, suggesting a lower resolution sensor behind the scenes, at least in my tests. Meanwhile, the fixed focus means you'll struggle with close-ups of smaller subjects, or even selfies at most people's arm's length. The anti-shake mode may still mean shaky images in lower light conditions, and the range of the LED flash is modest to say the least. Put it this way, you're going to enjoy far better photo or video quality from almost any phone, not to mention many vintage digicams. But remember, this camera isn't aimed at enthusiasts or quality fanatics. A phone is going to be out of the question for many younger kids, and even the most committed enthusiasts will get frustrated by the battery and connectivity issues of a vintage digicam, not to mention their reliability long term. This camera is aimed at young kids or anyone who wants to muck about with a really simple and cheap imaging system. Sure, the quality and flexibility are minimal, the marketing is dishonest, and if you drop it, I wouldn't expect a high survival rate. But none of this may matter to the target audience. Yes, there's way better quality options around, but none at this price point. It is crazy cheap at $38 or pounds. And as I edited this review, Amazon UK were even knocking a further tenner off, making it £28 and 100 times cheaper than the next camera that I'm testing. So don't expect miracles, go in with your eyes open, but ultimately have fun. I reckon most kids are going to love this camera at the price, although do consider paying more for a tough or waterproof model if it's likely to be dropped. So what do you think? Is this the ideal gift for Christmas, or indeed any occasion throughout the year? Or is it just a piece of rubbish that you're going to end up throwing out? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. And does it actually really prove that there is a demand for this kind of camera? Should Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, Fujifilm and all the rest still be making cameras that look like these, albeit not quite as cheap as this? Remember, $38 or pounds. Most of the cameras that I test on this channel cost 50 times more than that. So, should I do more of these? Are you interested in getting one? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.